The way Americans pick their political party leaders in the national election is a far cry from how things are done back here at home. And it's not just because Americans don't take part in our unofficial sport of leadership spills. Given the incumbent Donald Trump is the presumptive nominee for the Republican ticket in the November election, the big question is, who will the Democrats choose to take him on? And how will they get there? In Australia, the elected representatives of a political party will band together and choose the person they think will best represent the ideas and values of their party. And it's all done behind closed doors. But in the US, it's registered party members that state by state vote for their favourite candidate among a group all vying to be the nominee. So, unlike at home where parties fall in behind their leaders during a federal election campaign, in the US it all starts with colleagues affiliated with the same party fighting it out in the public eye to take the top spot on the ticket. In a 5-month painstaking process, every state and territory must decide which candidate to back in what are called caucuses or primaries. Caucuses are very different from primaries. They require voters to actually go to a meeting to participate in the nominating process. And this means caucuses can get pretty lively. At local gyms and halls, voters try to persuade each other to literally walk across the room and join their own group. Primaries, on the other hand, look a lot more like something you'd see at an Australian polling booth. Voters go to the polls and cast their ballot in secret. And most states and territories have moved to this primary system, but there are a handful left that continue with caucuses. It's not as simple as counting up the most popular candidate in each state to find out who will be the national nominee. Winning a caucus or a primary means a candidate wins a certain number of delegates. Delegates are the people who will eventually decide the nominee at a big event called a convention. Each American state or territory is allocated a number of delegates depending on its population. So it means some states are a lot more important to candidates than others. In Arizona, there's 67 delegates up for grabs, versus California, which has a whopping 415. The Democratic Party gives out delegates based on voter representation in each state. But if a candidate gets below 15% of the votes, they get no delegates at all. This is more complicated than a winner-takes-it-all rule, which the Republican Party tends to use. There are some key dates for these votes that you'll hear a lot about in the election cycle. It all kicks off with the Iowa caucuses in February, followed by New Hampshire, Nevada, South Carolina, and Super Tuesday in March, where at least 15 states and territories hold their caucuses or primaries in one day. By the end of April, most states have cast their votes. So by the delegate count, it's pretty clear by this stage who will be the Democratic frontrunner, but it won't be official until the party's national conventions in July. The convention is the last obstacle a candidate must overcome to earn their place on the ballot for the November election against Donald Trump. All the delegates from each state and territory arrive to vote for the candidates they represent. Pretty easy to follow so far, right? But at this point enters another quirk of the American system: superdelegates. While a regular delegate is pledged to vote for a specific candidate, a superdelegate is unpledged. They can turn up at the convention and vote for whoever they want, even if that candidate is not the primary voter's pick. Unlike regular delegates that are made up of members of the public, superdelegates are party insiders like congresspeople, governors, and former presidents. There are fewer superdelegates than regular delegates. To win the nomination, a presidential candidate must receive support from a majority of the pledged delegates on the first round of voting. But if the result isn't clear at this stage, then voting goes to a second round, where superdelegates can also cast a ballot. In this round, a candidate has to receive majority support from all delegates, super and regular. So if the vote is close between two candidates, superdelegates in theory do have the power to tip the scales either way. So there you have it. From the caucuses to the convention, the Australian's guide to the US Democratic nomination of 2020.